I want to share how I overcame my fear as a leader so you can too. Not fear in the obvious sense, but the fear of mistakes, the fear of things going wrong, and if I'm honest, the fear of being blamed. For a long time, I told myself I was being responsible, detail oriented, and committed to excellence, but what I was really doing was I was trying to control everything around me, and it was slowly eroding the trust I once had in myself and in my team. Stay with me because you'll be surprised how much the Bible has to say about leadership and how one revelation changed everything for me. I'll also share 3 usable reset steps you can apply right away to help you reframe how you view your leadership. But before that, please do take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. If you're a Christian in business, your leadership doesn't just shape outcomes, it shapes people. Fear-based leadership doesn't just damage performance, it quietly forms cultures of self-protection, silence, risk avoidance, and burnout. Often leaders don't realize it's happening. Fear-based leadership can show up as needing to be copied in on everything, overreacting to mistakes either inwardly or outwardly, and over-explaining decisions, trying to control narratives and equating compliance with loyalty. And underneath all of it is a quiet belief that if I loosen my grip, something will go wrong and it'll all be on me. Proverbs 29:5 says the fear of man will prove to be a snare. Fear-based leadership is usually about the fear of failure, the fear of losing control, the fear of being exposed, the fear of disappointing other people. And that fear becomes a snare, not just for the leader, but for everyone downstream. I think it's really interesting to look at 2 Samuel 15, where King Saul disobeys God, not because he's rebellious, but because he's afraid. He says, I was afraid of the people, so I gave in. Fear drove him to protect his image, rationalize poor decisions, and cling to power, and it cost him the kingdom. In Matthew 14:27, Jesus said, Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid. Jesus leads without fear because his identity is settled, his mission is clear, his authority isn't threatened by outcomes, and that's why he can empower others. And that's why he can even sleep during storms. In fear-based cultures, people actually stop telling the truth. Innovation slows down, mistakes get hidden, and responsibility gets pushed upward. Because people don't ask what's the best decision, they ask what's the safest decision. And that's not excellence, that's people in survival mode. Let's look at John 4:18. Perfect love drives out fear. And in leadership terms, love looks like trust, it looks like clarity, love looks like courage. You don't drive out fear by trying harder, you drive it out by leading from security, not anxiety. For many Christian leaders in business, control starts subtly. You want things done and you feel accountable and you carry the weight. Before you know it, you step in more, you check in more, and you correct faster. And then suddenly leadership turns into supervision. And the result, people stop owning decisions, initiative drops, and then trust really thins out. So control is rarely about power. It's actually about fear of failure, fear of being blamed, fear of letting go too soon. But here's the paradox. The tighter you hold, the weaker the team becomes. Trust doesn't grow under pressure, it grows under responsibility. Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Christian leadership starts here. If we say we trust God but struggle to trust the people God has placed around us, there's a disconnect there. Trust isn't naive, it's a decision to release control without abandoning care. Let me share something personal for a moment. I used to actually lead from a place of quiet fear. If something failed, I assumed it reflected badly on me. If someone made a mistake, it was me that felt responsible. So I stepped in and took on more work than I was delegating, and I spent so much energy worrying about what people were delivering for me and when. What I didn't realize at the time was that I wasn't just struggling to trust people, I was also obsessing about perfectionism because I saw perfectionism as my way of being shielded from criticism or blame. And because of that, perfectionism became an idol which was very subtle in arriving, but very stubborn to get rid of. And all of this because I struggled to trust God and I struggled to trust the gifts He'd already placed in me and other people. Because I was afraid if things went wrong, it would expose my limitations. So control and obsessive hypervigilance became my safety net. What changed wasn't a leadership book and it wasn't a new framework. It was recognizing this truth. God never asked me to be flawless. He asked me to be faithful. Faithful with people, with responsibility, with gifts He'd already entrusted to others, not just me. And when I stopped fearing mistakes, I stopped needing control. And something surprising happened. My leadership became stronger, not weaker. And that's why the story of Moses in Exodus 18 hits so close to home. Because Moses wasn't a bad leader, he was a faithful leader who was carrying too much alone. And in my opinion, he was afraid to trust other people. But delegation, it didn't diminish him, it actually preserved him. We see that Moses is leading faithfully, but he's just doing too much, and it was Jethro, his father-in-law, that called him out on it. And Moses didn't argue, instead he just restructured his leadership. He delegated authority, not just tasks. And the mission expanded, the people grew, and Moses adjusted. And letting go didn't weaken leadership, it multiplied it by using the gifts God placed in others. And Moses would have burnt out otherwise. Here's simple, usable resets you can apply right away. Number one, name what you're holding too tightly. Ask, what decisions always come to me? Where do people wait for my approval unnecessarily? Because everything roots through you, trust is limited, and so are the people you've been entrusted with. Number two, shift from instructions to outcomes. So instead of saying things like, do it this way, try, here's the outcome we need. I trust you to decide how to do it. This changes the game because people then think, they take ownership, and people grow. Number three, stay available, not controlling. Because trust doesn't mean disappearing, it means coaching instead of correcting, and asking before telling, and supporting without rescuing. Availability builds confidence where control builds dependence. When leaders reset control to trust, initiative increases, honesty improves, and people bring your problems earlier, and the culture becomes resilient, not fragile. Trust doesn't remove accountability, it deepens it. And people take responsibility when they're trusted with it. So here are some questions I'll leave with you. And I had to ask myself these as well. Where might fear be disguised as responsibility in my leadership? And what would change if I trusted God a little bit more and trusted others a little bit more and trusted the gifts He's already placed in me? Because the goal of Christian leadership isn't control, it's multiplication. If fear can't multiply anything, but trust can. So if you know a leader who could benefit from this message, please share it and I'll see you in the next video.